Welcome to Jazz Chat with David Friesen. We have a very special guest with us today. His name is John Gross. He plays the saxophone, tenor and alto, flute, and clarinet. He lives with his wife, Darcy, in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. He is an individualist as a jazz musician of the highest order, in my opinion. His sound, rhythmic concept, and ideas are forged from an illustrious career playing and recording with a very diverse group of jazz greats, including Harry James, Johnny Mathis, Lionel Hampton, Shelly Manne, the big bands of Stan Kenton, Gerald Wilson, Don Ellis, Bill Holman, and Toshiko Akiyoshi's big band. Is when we first met, playing on the same bill at the Philharmonic Concert Hall as part of the Berlin Jazz Festival in 1979. John has also formed his own groups, a very famous group called Three Play with great guitarist Larry Coons and great bassist Butter Smith. John's most recent recording, and if I've missed some facts here, John, you can bring me up to date. But the information I have is your most recent recording is Shards with the GMC trio Cameron Morgan and Scott Cutshall and John, of course. This is available on bandcamp.com. John moved to Portland, Oregon from LA in 1990 and became part of the jazz scene here very quickly. He's an extraordinary player. But then on October 18th, 2016, him and his wife decided they wanted to move to Vancouver, British Columbia, where he still resides with his wife, Darcy, today. Hey, John, welcome.
Thank you, David. Thank you for those kind words.
Hey, that's the facts about John Gross.
Yeah.
My question, why Canada?
Well, my wife is Canadian, and she wanted to move home to be close to her two sisters who live in the Vancouver area. Okay. And it just seemed to be a good thing to do.
Okay.
I mean, the immigration policy had changed, so she was able to bring me in as a spouse without any problems.
Well, how was the work up there in Canada?
The work has been good until the pandemic.
Right.
Then it's been non-existent.
Welcome to the club.
Yeah.
That was my next question for you. How are you dealing with the pandemic?
I'm just practicing and taking long walks, reading books, doing fun things with my wife. It's been difficult, but we're coping.
Yeah, I've never practiced so much in all my life.
Yeah, well,
which is a good part.
I took like 6 months off to just think about playing and music, and I did a lot of research that I hadn't been able to do as far as listening to a lot of players. So that was really informative.
Oh, that's good. So
yeah.
You took time off, but you were still involved with music by all the listening you were doing.
I just took a break.
Yeah.
From playing. I kept listening, but I just took a break from playing for about 6 months, and that was good.
Yeah.
I wanted to reevaluate, what I was doing.
And what conclusion did you come to?
Well, the conclusion I came to was that I needed to keep playing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking about being a lot more lot more careful about my choice of notes and leaving more space, and because I've been listening to a lot of people who do that, listening a lot to Lester Young, and that's been helpful.
Yeah.
And I've been thinking more about how I want to play in the future,
Interesting.
concentrating more on melody and space.
Yeah. It's funny when we work together, and we've worked a lot together. I always thought that was one of your main assets, was all the space you left. But maybe it was
Well,
because of my music. I don't know.
well, it's just something that I want to even do more.
Ah, okay.
You know, playing with you, using space is a really good thing because it gives everybody else a chance to explore your music without it being so crammed.
Right, right.
And so that's a good thing. And
Um,
so that's the way I always approached playing your music, was to use space and to listen to what other people were doing
yeah, yeah,
before adding anything.
yeah. Well, we made that album in Europe. Um, um,
That's a very good album.
it is Circle of Three with you and myself and Greg Goebel. And yeah, I listened to it recently, and I thought it turned out really, really well. You sounded great on this.
Yeah.
It's an album, folks, on ITM Records, Circle of Three. ITM is a German label. If you don't have this CD, you must get it.
Well, I think it's a really good record.
Oh yeah, yeah, I do
I
too.
think it's a really good recording. And it was a pleasure playing with you and Greg.
John, how early did you start playing music? We're going back to your to a little history of your youth. How this all began?
Well, I started playing clarinet at 8. And then I started playing saxophone at age 12. And then my dad brought home a Charlie Parker record, a little 45. And one of the sides that I heard was Constellation, which is a more obscure recording, but it's great. And it just totally blew my mind. It changed everything because I couldn't, it was way beyond my understanding, and I wanted to find out what was going on. The first thing I asked my dad was, who were those saxophone players? Because it sounded like there were 2 people playing it, because it was so extraordinary.
Yeah.
But
What'd he say?
he said, no, that's just one person. And I was shocked, you know. But that was what started my curiosity about this music.
So your dad was really into jazz then also, right?
He played semi-professionally all his life and taught music. And my mother loved music and played the piano.
So you were surrounded by music then as a
Yeah,
youth.
everybody in my family played an instrument.
You have sisters, brothers?
My sister's a viola player who is now playing in the Santa Barbara Symphony, and she played an awful lot in Los Angeles recording and performing, and also worked as a music copyist. And then my brother, Jim, was a great oboe player who stopped playing. And then my other brother, Jeff, was a French horn player who stopped playing.
Paths Beyond Tracing, I think that's the title, is a book of mine on Hal Leonard Publishers. And for the folks out there that are listening, and I didn't mention this before, but John is an extraordinary copyist. I think you've done copy work for many people, haven't you?
Many movies and many symphonies.
With
L.A. Phil.
Wow.
You know,
lots
of movies.
Yeah, it's better than Sibelius or the other digital companies that are out there that print the music. Are you still doing that for people, John, or at all?
No, I do it for myself only.
Yeah, okay. I think that was the same way when I knew you. You said you'd do it for me, but that was it.
It's too hard.
Great work, though, man. Did you do this also for now? A great friend of you and I, and we had a trio actually with the wonderful late Gary Barone.
Yeah.
Did you do this work for his brother, Mike, who did the Academy Awards?
No, I did not.
Okay. I didn't
Yeah.
know if that relationship brought you into copying
No.
for Mike, you know.
No, I knew Mike from playing and hearing his big band back in the 60s, which was a great band.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's where I first heard Gary.
Okay. And the two of you were involved, like, probably what, 35 years playing together?
Yeah.
At least?
40 years.
Wow. And you
40
were
years.
both in the Shelly Man.
And before that, we played on Stan Kenton's band together. We played on Gene Siegel Jazz Orchestra together. We played on a bunch of pickup bands and a bunch of rehearsal bands. And I lived with him.
Right. You guys were great friends. Well, I love Gary. It was just,
Yeah, he was a great trumpet player.
Yes, he was. He could swing. That's for sure. Just great feeling. It's true now, is it not, that you were Robin Williams' counselor when he came up to Oregon?
I can say that now because he's dead. But he was a patient at the facility I worked at as a drug and alcohol counselor for years, along with, hundreds of other people.
And you had personal conversations with him probably, or to help him?
Well, yeah. I mean, I was a group leader, so I had to lead 6 groups in 4 days, and he was present in every one.
Well, I've had tremendous respect for you as a human being, and Gary Barone. Both you guys were like idols for me in terms of the strength you both had to overcome drugs and alcohol that encompasses so many people who don't have the strength to overcome. But you both have stood as pillars for me of individuals of great strength for what you've been through.
Yeah, well, I just think I was lucky, and I got the help when I needed. And I watched Gary, and he had had enough, and I had had enough, and it was a choice of living or dying, and we both decided to live.
Wow, that takes a lot of strength. It's maybe easy to say, but the strength probably it took to persevere through that wall.
Well, I take no credit for it.
Wow.
I had help from a bunch of people who helped me, and so I don't feel like I was special or different, just lucky.
Yeah. Well, in my eyes,
I was also through. I was finished.
Yeah. Well, in my eyes, you and Gary are very special individuals, and we toured Europe together as a trio. I don't know if you can, if you remember.
Yeah, that was great.
It was fantastic. It was great the way you and Gary would improvise together. This wasn't rehearsed. This is just you listen to each other, and there was such a.
Yes, and we never talked about it.
Yeah, exactly. It just did it. Yeah, it was great.
That's real old school.
Yeah, right.
Exactly. I mean, when I was working at Shelly's with Shelly and Gary, and observing all of the great jazz musicians, they never talked about music.
Yeah.
They just did it. They didn't talk about it. They just did it.
Yeah, I don't
talked
call
about
that,
everything else.
Yeah, I don't call that old school. I call that great school.
Yeah. They just did it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And there was no big discussion.
Yeah, I remember, I think it was Randy Porter who said something about you to me at one time. And he talked about this, about myself, that he had never met such players that were so intuitive that, which is part of the process of playing jazz. If it's going to take it to another level, it has to be intuitive. It has to go beyond what you practice, or you know, it's. I think intuition in the dictionary means having you know something without having studied it.
I think you and I and everybody else in our generation and generation after learned how to play by playing.
Yeah.
Not study, but playing. You know, that's how we learned.
Yeah. It doesn't mean we didn't practice, but I know what you mean.
Well, you have to practice.
You have to practice. Yeah.
But what do you practice? That's a big discussion in the academic world now.
Yeah.
Because there are schools of thought that say that you must transcribe solos, you must learn other people's licks, and you must do this and you must do that. And I don't think so.
No,
I don't think so. I think if you talk to like all the great players, you will find that they each had their own approach.
This is the individuality, which is the greatest gift we have in playing this music. You know, when I came into playing jazz, it was assumed if you were going to play jazz, you had to be unique. The word unique and jazz was synonymous with each other.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, yeah.
I once proposed a book project to my publisher, but he didn't really have the funds. But back in 1999, I wanted to interview all of the great players who were still alive and ask them what their practice routine was.
Great idea.
It would have been fascinating.
Yeah, yeah. Great idea.
I remember talking with Steve Christopherson, a wonderful piano player and composer. And I said, we were talking about practice, and he said, oh yeah, back in 1987, I practiced for like 6 months, and that was the last time I practiced.
Yeah.
But he was playing every day.
Yeah. We're all different, and we all need different input. Bud Shank was practicing every day until he passed away. And he told me he had a sign that he built that covered his music stand, and then some, and in big red letters it said, concentrate.
Yeah.
And that's what he was practicing on, learning to stay in the moment. You know.
Yeah, focus.
Focus, exactly. John, who are some of your influences?
Well, it goes back to my alto playing days, and my big influences when I was playing alto were, I mean, not Charlie Parker, because it was too complex for me when I was younger. So my big influences were Art Pepper, Paul Desmond, Lee Konitz, that kind of spacey approach on alto. Mm-hmm. There was a great Hollywood studio guy, Ted Nash, who I had a record of, and he played beautifully. And so I listened to the alto players who played really pretty, and that's who I listened to until Coltrane came along. And then before Coltrane, I'd been listening to Dexter Gordon. So Dexter was a big influence on me. Yeah, yeah. His sound and his the way he structured his solos. Yeah. I listened a lot to him. And then everybody else. Yeah. You know. Yeah. Recently, I've been listening a lot to Lester Young and those guys. Yeah. And that's been really informative. Paul Gonsalves is a particular favorite of mine.
No one plays a ballad like Ben Webster.
Nobody.
You know,
No,
it's
no. And
just,
I've been listening a lot to Ben.
and you
And
know, what's interesting, though harmonically, maybe and rhythmically, uh, concepts have changed and maybe are a little bit more intricate in a way. But at the core of all that is that beautiful gem of music.
yeah,
That part that is golden. And I don't see a difference between Lester Young, Ben Webster, Coltrane, all those great artists maintain that beautiful gem of music. And so it's as modern as can be, as far as I'm concerned.
yeah. Well, I think a real challenge for any jazz musician is playing a melody,
Yes.
you know, without uh, getting all fancy. You
This is
know,
why I have
just
all my students composing music so they can learn to improvise compositionally as opposed to just chord scale relationships.
yeah, that's a good idea. You know,
Yeah.
you need to be able to play a melody and not, as I say, fancy it up with all of your brilliance.
Well, you
To
know,
just need to play a melody simply first.
this is why it'd be really good for the folks out there. If you haven't heard Circle of Three, the CD that was recorded in, I'm trying to think of the city now. We recorded it in a live studio with a live audience,
Yeah,
and in Germany. And this is a great example of what you're talking about. The space, how you approach my music, the space you left, and still heard the outline of the song that you're playing all the time. You always heard the melody of the song. You always retained that aspect. No matter how far you took it out, there was always that beautiful melody you were creating around my tunes. You're
yeah.
the only one
Well,
that's ever done this.
that was what I always try to do with your music and everybody else's music is to try and find the melodies inside the music,
Yeah.
inside the harmonic structure and the rhythmic structure. Whatever they were there to be found, and it's infinite.
Yeah.
You know, the amount of melody you could pull out of a song.
Yeah. That's right.
Just go into it.
John, I mean, you and I we could talk forever. I mean, and get into into the music, and we could all learn a great deal from what you have to share. I just have a couple of more questions for you. Current projects. What are you working on currently right now?
Right now, I've got a trio with a wonderful piano player, Jillian Lebec Naryoga, and a bass player named Jody Presnick. And we play places that a trio is good at. And then I've got a quartet that I play with three young players, a trio. Jimmy James, piano. He's Hugh Frazier's son.
Ah,
Uh, and Brad Pearson bass and Max Heberdu plays drums. And we've been rehearsing for a couple of years, and we play jobs. We're playing at the Jazz Festival in July. And that's great because they're all young in their late 20s. And so they have that enthusiasm that we had at
yeah,
that time.
yeah,
And they just want to play and get better.
yeah.
And so I play with them a lot. And then I got involved with Western Front, doing some more avant-garde music uh, at a place called 8 East. We have concerts there, and I play with a variety of different improvisers, many. And there's a lot of great players up here who improvise without songs, and it's really fun. And I've been
Wow.
playing with a great piano player, Lisa K. Miller, who's who plays piano, prepared piano, and writes, and we've got a couple of projects going there. And
That's great.
anything else that I do, I'm always open to playing with other players.
Well, it sounds like you're keeping busy up there, probably more busy than what we're doing down here in Portland.
Well,
you know,
the pandemic has stopped everything, but it'll pick up.
John, we're going to conclude now, but before we do, I ask every individual that I've interviewed, I would like to have you leave us with some encouraging words for the people that are listening. In a broken world that is going through a lot of diverse, things at this time, and causing a lot of problems with a lot of people. What can you say? What would be in your heart to say, to share with people that might uplift them and give them some hope?
Well, the only thing I can say is we need to learn how to love each other. And as far as music is a healing force. So the more music there is, the more we heal. So that's what I got to say.
That's beautiful, man. You got to show the love, just like you gave me a lifetime subscription to Ring Magazine. That represents a lot of love for me.
Our pleasure.
Hey, listen, blessings to you, John. To all the fans out there, be well, stay healthy, and God bless you all.
Now, God bless you, David, and you have a good day. And
you too, John.
Keep it up.
Yeah, thank you, man.
Keep it up. Okay.